You know something? I once had an English teacher who said that his favorite Christmas movie was Casablanca. And he said that because Casablanca has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas. And I've taken this feeling to heart, quite actually, by doing for this year's Christmas special something which has actually slightly more to do with Christmas than Casablanca, in that we will be flying over Iceland and therefore closer to the North Pole. But yes, we're back in Strike Fighters 2 North Atlantic, and I've actually sort of learned how to fly the F-14 somewhat reasonably in this. I've figured out how the radar works, and hopefully we won't have another little incident. And we should be absolutely splendid. I know how to identify enemy and friendly aircraft now. So it is the 28th, no it's not, bleh, 24th of December 1979. Although flying against the Soviets, for most of them it's probably the... Oh god, when's the Eastern Orthodox? I think it's January 8th? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, 1979, and we will be flying a fighter sweep over... Oh, blimey. Husavik. I think, yeah, airport. And destroying any enemy aircraft operating in the vicinity. Call sign, Dallas. I'll have 2 F-14s, including myself. Take off, we'll be flying in the evening, and at this time of year it'll probably be dark by the time we get back to the carrier. Actually it's pretty close to the time frame at which I'm recording this. It's 4:25 in the afternoon as I'm recording this. I'm not going to say what day it is, because you should never do that. We'll have the USN Grey Black Nose US Navy. We'll be flying for VF-84, the Jolly Rogers, as one ought. We'll be carrying full fuel, plus drop tanks. We want as much fuel as we can possibly get. It's going to be a pretty long trip. Fuel's 100%, ammo's 100%. We'll be carrying 2 Sidewinders, 2 Sparrows, and 4 Phoenix missiles. So, you know, Sidewinders engage within 5 miles, within 20 miles, within about 80 miles, I think, for the Phoenix missiles. It's a heck of a missile. I'll talk about it later as we're en route. I don't think there's much more to it. We will be... so, I guess I should provide background. For those of you who don't know, Strike Fighters 2 North Atlantic is set during a hypothetical Soviet invasion of Iceland in 1979, and the USS Nimitz battle group is deployed to put a stop to it, and we'll be flying a fighter sweep right to the north end of Iceland. And in terms of the threats that could rise to meet us, we have an unknown unit at the airport, and then at the target field they have at least 5 MiG-23s to the extent of our knowledge. MiG-23 is not that different to the F-14. That's a variable geometry fighter with a pretty big radar. You can engage targets from a substantial distance, so we can, I think with our AIM-54 Phoenix missiles we can engage from a greater range than they can, and I would like to make that advantage tell, if at all possible. They'll be flying over the mountains. It'll be nice and snowy, and it'll just be marvelous. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I should do before we get underway, and I really don't think so. So I shall see you on the deck of the carrier. Ahaha! Welcome aboard. We have our number 2 beside us, who is in the markings of a different squadron. Oh, blimey, whatever. We are going to get underway. Yes. We will be using full afterburner for the catapult launch from the Nimitz. The F-14A did have to do that. The F-14D, on which they introduced much more powerful engines, did not have to do that. But I think they still did it when they were shooting Top Gun anyway, because it looked cooler. I don't know exactly how that went. But we're going to climb out to our first waypoint under afterburner, and after that we're going to pull the throttle right back, because fuel conservation is vital on these long sectors out over the north of Iceland. It's pushing the limits of our range, and certainly time on station in terms of actual combat. I'm going to flick our radar on now, and push the range out to its maximum value, so that we're scanning all the time and we don't miss anything on the way in. And we should be approaching that first waypoint, and there we are. So I'll throttle back, gear and flaps are up, as my tailhook down. It's my bloody signature at this point. Flying a whole bloody mission with the tailhook down. Maybe I should do that just for giggles. Why is it so dark? Already. It's not supposed to be this dark. I don't know. I guess it's the north, isn't it? So it is dark at this hour. We will be so very lonely at night. I don't think I've flown any night missions in this as of yet, so this should be very good. I'm going to pull the throttle quite a bit further back than that, actually, to about 40, even 35%, so that we don't drink the gas quite so much. And we are going to proceed en route. And I'll have a little look at the map, but I'll try to avoid it, because it does show where the enemies are. And I would like to detect them only with my radar. Speaking of which, what's this? If you look at the top right, or I could scroll down, I've got our designator. We've got 2 contacts here. I suspect they are probably friendly this close to the ship, though. That's, although, that's about 100 miles away. If we can lock them, we can interrogate them and find out whether they're enemy or not. And that would be nice to do. Notice we're descending, so we'll level off just a tad here. I'm not going to worry about them too much for now. What I will talk about is these gigantic 1,000-pound missiles that are slung under our belly. So, ooh, and this lovely paint scheme. So that missile, for those who don't know, is the AIM-54 Phoenix A. It has a range of just under 100 miles for this variant, and utilizes the F-14's gigantic radar that it has in the nose. And what it also has, although this is not a feature of Strike Fighters 2 North Atlantic, you can't actually use this, is if you look under the nose here, you can see there's a sort of little lump under the front, and one of the things that was in that lump, in at least most variants, I'm not sure if the A actually had it, thinking of it, was a extremely powerful camera that could look out and it'd be locked in line with the radar, so you could visually identify your target from, like, even from probably 100 miles away, if the rules of engagement made it necessary to do that. So that was a very handy thing, that the F-14 could actually reasonably engage targets from long range. Because that was a big problem the Americans had in Vietnam, was their rules of engagement in most cases required visual identification of the target, so they would actually have to merge, and more often than not get into a close-in turning fight where they'd be up against mostly MiG-17s, which could easily pull lead on an F-4 Phantom and shoot it down if it were close enough. So with the F-14, we avoid that to some degree. Although getting into a turning fight with a MiG-21, or probably even a MiG-23, would not be particularly advisable per se, although it may yet happen. We will have to see as we proceed with our mission. So let's have a look at the data for this target. Its ground speed's 507 knots, range 94.3 miles. I think that's got to be a friendly aircraft. We'd be... AWACS would be calling it out as a bandit if it were anything else, probably, anyway. Don't think there's a huge amount more to say, so I might cut pretty soon unless I come up with something really clever to talk about. Oh, one thing I will mention, actually, as we get underway, is something that I might refer to in the future, and we'll try to do so in brief because we might be in combat, is if we flick into our... Nope, it's not going to do that unless I have a radar lock on something. Okay, fair enough. We'll go back to... Never mind. Essentially, this will show us on this screen the range at which we ought to be engaging down here in the center. The F-14 sort of introduced some technology that would be quite a lot further developed on future American aircraft in quite a lot of ways. And I do like the F-14. I've sort of warmed up to it in time. I'm actually working on a model of one at the moment. There is something to like about it. I mean, it's not as chunky as the F-4, but I had better stop waffling because I'll start slobbering all over this aeroplane and we just don't need that to happen. So I'll maybe cut to when something interesting decides to happen. Right, so we should see the Iceland coast coming into view pretty soon, and one thing I will address is the fuel situation. As you probably know, we are carrying these two external fuel tanks, which is why our fuel gauge is still showing full. So we'll pickle those tanks once they're empty, obviously, to save even more fuel. And after that, we'll start to see these levels on the fuel gauge you see down at the bottom center here drop off a little bit. And at that point, I've come to the conclusion that these radar contacts off to our side here are very likely friendly aircraft, so I'm not going to worry about them too much. But what I am going to do is stop us descending. I like us to be level. I mean, we're not going to pick up radar contacts that are really, really low or really, really high, which, you know, we're just going to have to deal with. But I've been trying to figure out which unit my wingman is wearing the colors of. Because, oh, well, VF-41, I suppose, isn't it? Fair enough. And we are in VF-84 because our, we are, of course, the Symphony in Coordination. Or something. I don't think we really need to be navigating by the stars, since we have these lovely little indications up here, but... I've noticed it's not getting completely dark at all. That might be a symptom of the north. I really don't know. I mean, I don't live that far north, not as far north as Iceland. I mean, I'm in Red Deer, Alberta, which is, you know, like, it's over 100 miles from the US border, I know, and, you know, apparently, like, 90% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the US border, but I'm gonna quit my waffling and address something important. There hasn't been a Sea Dragon episode in a while, and that is because I attempted the third mission probably about 20 times, and I'm absolutely convinced that it's impossible, so what I might do is move on to the next one, or record more failures of the third one. We'll have to see. The coastline is coming into view, which is always good to see, but what's not necessarily good to see is that we don't have any radar contacts, which I suppose could be a good thing. I mean, we don't necessarily want to be engaged by the enemy, but you never know. We could stir a hornet's nest, and we should be prepared for that. And if we get into a situation we can't quite handle, well, we've only got 2 F-14s, so if we're engaged by like 10 MiGs, I mean, it's not usually in my character, is it? But I might turn around and run. Although, we might not have the fuel for it. I don't know. I've flown a couple of the... Ooh. 12 o'clock, 50 miles. Angels 30 heading west. Yeah, I see him. Oh.
12 o'clock, 50 miles. Angels 30, heading west. Stay alert.
Heading west. I don't think I'm picking up anything that's heading west, but I'm picking up contacts that are more like 200 miles away. Which is interesting, but... yeah, I got these 2 contacts, if you look at the radar, either in the top right or down here. I'm sort of switching between them here. So 2 contacts, bogeys, we don't know what they are. If we can lock them up with radar, we can interrogate them and try and figure that out. I'm going to select my Phoenix missiles. And, okay, I got this guy locked up. It's not telling me if he's friend or foe yet. Let's try the other one. Hello. Who are you, sweetheart? It's not abundantly... whoa! Oh, I can see my wingman floating about in the mirror. We'll have him cover me for now. Okay. We got... okay, so we've designated them targets 1 and 2. And they're well out of engagement range, so I'm not... uh-oh. Oh, never mind. So I'm not particularly worried about not having identified them yet. But ideally... okay, so now is the time to demonstrate this thing. So if you look at this screen in the center of the panel here, you'll see there's this big bar on the left side, and there's two little nubbies on the right side of it, and one big nubby on the left side. The big nubby indicates our range to target, and the top little nubby indicates the maximum range for the missile we've selected. So if we select our Sidewinders, it's a pretty small range. If we select our Sparrows, it's a little bigger. We go up to the Phoenix, it's quite a lot bigger. So once we get closer into range, the nubby on the left side will start ticking down towards the top nubby on the right side. And once it's... I'll probably wait until we're well within that envelope before we engage, but... yes. That's how that works, so that we don't fire from too great a range. I've noticed with these Phoenix missiles, they do have a not completely unappreciable failure rate, which is a bloody shame, because they're expensive and heavy. But what they do is, to engage from that range, is they drop off the airplane, and you can feel it when they do, according to actual F-14 pilots. And then the engine lights, and you'll see them streak off in front of us and go way up. They climb and climb and climb and climb. I think the later variants went up to probably 80,000 feet. And then they come down on the target from above, which is good, because it makes it harder to avoid. Because one of the better ways to evade a long-range radar-guided missile is, say, these targets were passing in front of us from left to right. Oh, another bogey. So say they're passing in front of us from left to right. We fire when they're doing that. They reverse and go from right to left. And they wait to do that until they figure that the engine on the missile is burned out and it's essentially gliding to the target. There's a pretty good chance that it won't be able to maneuver to catch up to that target. Whereas if the missile's coming down from a higher altitude at a higher speed, like the Phoenix, that's going to be a lot harder to do, and they're going to have to rely on closer-in countermeasures to potentially decoy the missile. So that's all good. The only operational aircraft to carry the Phoenix was the F-14, by the way. Okay.
Dallas lead. Hawkeye, bogey, 12 o'clock. Angels 25, heading west.
It's 25. Yeah, we got a lot of bogeys, and they're higher up for the most part. And we still can't identify them. But from where we are... let me get rid of that waypoint. I'm gonna say that they're not our friends, shall we say. And range is 112 miles, so we're gonna be in Phoenix range in not too terribly long. And we really are gonna want to engage, but we haven't identified them yet, so I don't really want to shoot until we do that. Incidentally, they'll show up as a chevron on the radar screen once we've identified them as enemy. And there'll be a little semicircle upside down U looking thing if they're friendly. Which I don't imagine they would be here, and if they were, we'd know about them. So we might be getting into a bit of trouble, because we have contacts 1, 2, 3, 4, and we don't know how many aircraft there could be in close proximity. In relation to any one of those blips. I'm going to turn my radar range down to 200 just to declutter, or rather enclutter just a little bit. And you can see this little upside down T thing is basically the spot we want to be pointing at to have the missile go in the straightest line to the target and make as few turns as possible, which sort of increases range and increases the likelihood of a hit, which is always a very good thing to have. I'm going to push the throttle up a little bit so that we close with these guys, since we still have... Oh, I think our external tanks might be empty now. So I might pickle those off at least once we get into combat. How far inland are we? I shouldn't look at this map too often because it'll show us the enemy properly. But... range 79. Yeah, we're almost in Phoenix range. Come on. Oh, yeah, he's showing up as a chevron on our radar scope. Okay. So that's good. I'm gonna wait until we're a little further inside Phoenix range, because we're almost in range now. And okay, I think now we're officially in range. I'll wait until until the Navi on the left side gets a little closer, but the closing rate is seeming to be picking up. I know the radar on the F-15 actually tells you what the closing rate is, but I'm not sure if it does on the F-14. And we could fly the F-15, but not in this. It's only in Strike Fighters 2, Europe, and or Israel. And that's not what we're doing right now. We're flying an F-14. The magnificent chunky machine that it is. Okay, so we're well within range. We've identified it as enemy. Actually gonna pull that throttle back again. And yeah, I think we're in a position to engage. I'll just see what these guys have to say about it.
20 plus bandits.
20 20 plus bandits is what we're dealing with, apparently. So, let's get to business. Dallas 1-1, Fox 3. Why can't I shoot? Why can't I shoot? Come on, let me shoot. It's not giving me hot trigger indication. Come on, let me shoot. We're getting awfully close to these guys, and there's a lot of them. Come on, let me shoot. Let me shoot! There's something I've done in the past that's fixed this. Track wells. There we go. Radar needs to be in TWS. Okay, Dallas 1-1, Fox 3. And there goes Phoenix 1, climbing off towards the target. And let's observe our lovely missile. It's going to be closing pretty quickly. And we're going to be in the fight of our lives in a second here. If there are actually 20 MiGs here. So, that's always good to know. So... okay, so... the rocket motor on our missile is burned out. And it appears to be tracking to the target from a very high altitude. It looks like it's probably at about 40,000 feet and coming back down. Target was at 25,000, and it missed him. That looked like it was maybe a Badger. Okay, what's his range now? 22 miles. Okay, we'll go for another Phoenix shot. Dallas 1-1, Fox 3. And wingman... can I tell him to engage air? Maybe not. Anyway... this one isn't climbing as high because it doesn't need to arc quite so far to the target by the looks of it. Doesn't need to climb a little bit though, since the target's a fair distance higher than us as I understand it. Whatever that is, this engine puts out a lot of smoke. Yeah, that looked like it was probably a Badger. And was there another one? I really don't think so, because he's dropping off pretty quickly. So, what's next? What's this up ahead here? We've expended 2 Phoenix missiles already, which I'm not terribly happy about. Radar's going into TWS. And we got this guy locked. At least we should. Yeah, track while scan. What about this guy? Can we interrogate him? Yeah, he's an enemy too, and he's locked. Ooh. And this one's even closer. Oh god, they're getting around us, aren't they? Range 44 miles for this guy. Oh dear. Okay, well he's identified as enemy. Track well scan, we got a hot trigger, we're ready to shoot. Oh god, MiGs everywhere! We might have to plug as many of these things as possible and then turn and run. Okay, I'm getting to my optimal firing point for another Phoenix shot. And that's looking pretty good. It's definitely an enemy, showing up as a chevron. We're well within range. Okay, Dallas 1-1, Fox 3. And Phoenix 3 comes off the airplane and climbs up. We haven't actually had any fail to track yet, and I do get that a fair amount with these. I don't know what their failure rate was early on. I mean, they went to service in the mid-70s. By that time, missile technology was improving, at least to some degree, since Vietnam. When, you know, the success rate for the Sparrow missile was less than 11%, I think. Which is probably infuriating, because if a Phantom was carrying 4, it was very likely that they would all 4 of them would fail. And that's got to wear against the nerve. S.A.M inbound. Text is blue, so it's not coming at me. I'm not going to worry just yet. What are we up against here? We should see if anyone's got a radar lock on us, which they do not appear to have. Okay, come on. Show me what we're looking at here. Nope, this is actually a fighter, because shooting down bombers when there are as many MiGs around as there may well be, might not be that... Oh, please don't decoy. Yes! Okay, that one was a bear, Tu-95, and we've still got radar contact, and he's going to be dropping off, so that's all good. Gonna turn around and see what else is close. Let's see, we lock this guy up. Put her into track well scan mode. And okay. Come on, give me a radar lock. Radar lock. Search mode, then it should go track while scan. The radar's going funny. Oh, that's the gun. Still have a Phoenix missile, jeez Louise. Yeah, so that's a radar lock. Track well scan. Yeah, so we should be good to shoot this guy too. Range 46 miles, well within range for a Phoenix missile. If there are fighters around rather than all these bombers, I really would rather engage them, especially with my long-range missiles. Since we're up against MiG-23s, which can shoot back from a similar distance, but, ooh, we got a friendly in the area. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to engage this contact here, firing our last Phoenix missile, so we'll be engaging from within 20 miles with Sparrows from here on, most likely, but that's just something I'm going to have to live with. Dallas 1-1, Fox 3. And Phoenix 4, we got good separation, and it's climbing out towards the targets. Looks pretty good. S.A.M launch. Yes, but not launching at me, because I didn't hear... Uh-oh. Definitely not launching at me. Okay. We do know that the Soviets have some pretty advanced SAMs up here. Some of which actually function a lot like the Phoenix in that they climb to a much higher altitude and strike from above. Unlike the older like S.A.2s that we're seeing rather prolifically in Vietnam. Which were quite effective still, but... Oh geez, what's this missile going towards? I think our target's descending. Yeah, there he is. What a smoke coming out of his engine. And it's a bear. Okay, fair enough. We got him. And we're kind of in the eye of the storm coming up here, so... How do we get turned around this way? Okay, I'm gonna head back towards our primary waypoint. Given what we ought to be up against is sort of in that direction. Good man, cover me. And maybe actually I should have him engage something.
Dallas lead. Hawkeye. Bogies. 12 o'clock. 50 miles.
Yeah.
Heading north. Keep your eyes
That's
open.
more like it. Okay. And some of these are already showing up as chevrons. Flicking my radar back into search mode now. What's this close one up here? I'm gonna guess that's our 20 plus contact, because I was scrolling through a whole bunch of airplanes there. But this one is the closest, and since we're down to engaging with Sparrow missiles at this point, it's gonna be our best option. But if this is a lone aircraft, which it appears to be, I might close in and use our sidewinders or the gun. just because I would like to be able to use my Sparrows to engage targets from a bit more of a standoff distance like I was with our Phoenix missiles and take advantage of their range. Because it's the Sidewinders that are good for the close-in combat, because they're a bit more maneuverable. It's just occurring to me, our nubbies appear to be showing up on the right side of the HUD as well for our missile range, or at least I think that's what that is. Oh, and I thought I'd familiarize myself with this aircraft, but no, you learn something every day. You tend to learn the most when you're recording something and stuff happens that hasn't happened before and blah 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 blah, but... So, we could... Oh yeah, so we're in Sparrow range now. We could engage at maximum range from here. But since this is a lone aircraft, I have a feeling it's a bomber. So I'm gonna get in close and engage it with Sidewinders if I can. I'll keep an eye on these other contacts that are further out, because I suspect they're probably MiGs.
Copy that.
But we will see what happens. We're closing with this aircraft pretty rapidly. And still have a decent amount of fuel. I'm not going to push the throttle up without need to do so. In fact, I'm going to bring it back a little bit because we are well inside enemy territory, and I want to be able to make it back to the ship having used Afterburner a fair bit. My one concern is that these MiGs are less than 100 miles away, and they carry missiles similar to the AIM-54 Phoenix, as I've mentioned. So I do have some reservations about us turning so that we can't pick them up on radar, and them sort of closing in behind us.
Hawkeye, Bandit, 12 o'clock, 9 miles.
Yeah.
Angle 25, heading west, 20 plus bandits, left, 10 o'clock, 50 miles.
Left.
10, heading west, you're clear to engage.
Left 10 o'clock at 50 miles. That's interesting. These guys might surround us. Okay, enemy aircraft's in sight. And I got Sidewinder missiles selected. And we have a heat lock. But I don't think I want to use my Sidewinders for this. I'm switching to guns. Now, if this is a bomber, there's a chance that their gunners will hit us from a fair distance. So I'm going to push the throttle up and close in with some amount of speed to this target. I may later regret that, and I'm also going to pickle our external fuel tanks since they're empty. You know what? I don't actually think I want to take the risk of engaging this thing with guns. I might go for the Sidewinder shot at 2 miles. Geez, I can't decide now. He appears to be outrunning us, and I don't want to burn a whole lot of fuel chasing him. That might sound like a bit of a petty thing, but it's something we really need to worry about. So, 2.3 miles. Yeah, okay. Dallas 1-1, Fox 2. Oh, and he's gonna decoy him, isn't he? Oh, no! Ah! Did him some damage. I don't think we shot him down, though. Okay, I'm not using 2 Sidewinders on this guy. I'm switching to guns. And I'm pushing up into full Afterburner, because I'm not interested in having this guy hit us. So it's a Tu-95. It has some gun blisters on the top and at the tail. That just doesn't need to happen. This contact appearing ahead of us on the radar. I think that might be our 20 plus bandits. Okay, we're getting pretty close. Whoa, tracers! Okay. Whoa, where's my cannon? Get him, get him! Oh, bugger, we're hit! Oh, crap, 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 crap. Okay. Alright, I'm heading back to the ship. I'll see how long we last with this. Oh god. It's Christmas time, how can this happen? I think we're losing hydraulic fluid. Eek! And we're heading straight towards the enemy. Oh, bugger, 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 bugger. Okay, wingman. Save yourself. Head back to base. I think it's only a matter of time before we're consumed by fire, but let's see what happens. Oh, bugger. Ah! Fire! I don't want to eject over enemy territory. Make for the sea! Come on, come on. I think it's only a matter of time. Come on, make for the sea. Most direct route. Oh, bugger. Eek! What have we lost now? Starboard wing! Eek! Okay. Eject, eject! Oh. Such a tragedy of sadness. Okay, let's see what we were up against. So we got MiG-23s taken off. I like the MiG-23 actually. It's a very, it's ugly in a beautifully Soviet way. More MiGs, more MiGs, more MiGs. More MiGs. These guys are landing though. They're relieving their standing patrols. Another MiG! Another MiG! Another MiG! Another MiG! I knew I shouldn't have engaged that Tu-95 with guns. I knew I'd regret it. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of... No. My mind. Crikey, there were a lot of MiGs. Who else was with us? What's Showtime 11 up to? Oh yeah, that's our AWACS. ASP. I heard them over the radio. What were they up to? Another flight of F-14s. Tuna! What was Tuna up to? I'm just killing time now. More F-14s. Gee, why didn't you guys turn up? Okay, then this is back at the carrier. 14, F-14, F-14, A6. Ooh, Yak-38. This is worth looking at. The Soviet answer to the Harrier was their it was their VTOL fighter aboard a Kiev class aircraft carrier, I think. They have a bunch of those things. I haven't actually encountered any of those in combat as of yet. And we're back to our MiGs, so I think that is all, I'm afraid. So, it's a bloody shame the Christmas special had to end in such a tragedian manner, but I'm not going to re-record it just because of that. So, let's look at the damage. See what we managed. Okie dokie. So, results, yeah, mission aborted. None of the primary targets destroyed. Well, I shot down 4 aircraft, loss of 1 F-14, partial success, score 1300, and Herr Lieutenant, whose name I didn't bother changing, is killed in action and awarded the Purple Heart posthumously. And I think, yes, this letter certifies that the President of the United States, let's see, who was president at this point in 1979? Jimmy Carter, I think. Established by General George Washington, New York, August 7th, 1872. Oops. Awarded to Lieutenant Mr. 66D Pilot. That's a very clever name, isn't it? Yes. So, there we go. It just had to end in a Purple Heart. So, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, a Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday is your preference, and, what was I gonna say? We probably won't have another Sea Dragon episode until after the holidays, so I suppose I'll see you around that time. До свидания. Or what? Spy!